The story of the giants in the Bible, particularly found in the book of Genesis, has intrigued scholars and readers for centuries. It begins with a mysterious reference to the sons of God and the daughters of men in Genesis, which has led to many interpretations. According to the text, these sons of God took wives from the human women, and their offspring were mighty beings called the Nephilim. The term Nephilim is often translated as giants, though its exact meaning remains uncertain. This passage, found in Genesis chapter 6, describes a time before the Great Flood when these beings were present on earth, and their presence was associated with great corruption. The Nephilim are described as both mighty and men of renown, suggesting they were seen as powerful and influential figures. Their exact nature and origin are not fully explained in the Bible, leading to various theories about who or what the sons of God might have been. Some believe they were fallen angels, while others interpret them as the descendants of Seth, Adam's son, who intermarried with the descendants of Cain. Regardless of their origins, the presence of these beings is seen as a contributing factor to the growing wickedness of humanity, which led to God's decision to send the flood to cleanse the earth. The giants are also mentioned in other parts of the Bible, including the story of the Israelites' conquest of the Promised Land. In the book of Numbers, when the 12 spies were sent to scout the land of Canaan, they reported seeing giants, the descendants of the Nephilim, in the region. These giants were described as having an imposing stature, so much so that the Israelites felt like grasshoppers in comparison. This fear was a significant factor in the Israelites' initial refusal to enter the land, leading to a delay of 40 years before they would eventually return to claim it. In the story of David and Goliath, one of the most famous accounts of giants in the Bible, the giant Goliath is described as a Philistine warrior who stood over 9 feet tall. His challenge to the Israelites was met by the young David, who, with God's help, defeated Goliath with a single stone from his sling. This victory is often seen as symbolic of God's power to overcome even the greatest of adversaries, no matter how large or intimidating they may seem. While the Bible does not provide exhaustive details about the giants, it consistently presents them as beings of great physical stature and strength, often associated with evil or corruption. The giants, whether literal or symbolic, represent the perils of human arrogance and the consequences of defying God's will. Their story serves as a reminder of the limits of human power and the importance of humility before God. Though the giants in the Bible are often viewed through a lens of myth and legend, their presence in ancient texts speaks to a deep-seated cultural fascination with beings who are larger than life. The Nephilim and other giants are woven into the fabric of biblical history as both a warning and a mystery, leaving much for readers and theologians to ponder. Their story is one of intrigue and awe, a tale of beings who walked the earth in a time before the flood, giants who remain enigmatic and symbolic of the strange and wondrous aspects of the divine narrative. The fascination with the giants of the Bible extends beyond the immediate passages that mention them, as their story has been interpreted, reinterpreted, and expanded upon throughout history. Over time, the figure of the Nephilim has captured the imaginations of many, leading to various theological and philosophical debates. Some early Jewish texts, such as the Book of Enoch, offer a more detailed account of the giants, portraying them as the offspring of fallen angels who descended to earth and taught humanity forbidden knowledge, including sorcery and weaponry. In these texts, the giants become symbols of the corruption that ensued as a result of these divine beings interacting with humans, further intensifying the themes of wickedness and divine judgment. The Book of Enoch, which is considered apocryphal and not included in the canonical Bible, expands upon the Genesis story by describing how the Nephilim spread violence across the earth. It tells of how these beings, along with their angelic fathers, led humanity astray, and as a result, the earth became filled with bloodshed and sin. The giants, in this narrative, are depicted as both a cause and a symptom of humanity's deep moral decay, and their eventual destruction by the flood is seen as a necessary cleansing of the earth. This additional layer to the biblical account deepens the sense of cosmic struggle between good and evil and underscores the reason behind God's decision to send the flood as a judgment. In later Christian thought, the Nephilim were often viewed as part of a broader theological framework in which angels, demons, and divine intervention shaped the course of human history. Some early Christian writings suggested that the giants could represent the overreach of human ambition and the dangers of pride. The idea of giant beings walking the earth, associated with great power and even greater sin, became a cautionary tale in the broader context of human hubris. Throughout the centuries, the concept of giants has also appeared in medieval literature, folklore, and religious texts. In some traditions, giants were seen as remnants of a pre-flood world, and their presence in mythology could be traced to the biblical accounts of the Nephilim. The giants became not only figures of terror but also symbols of lost knowledge, with some stories imagining them as possessing ancient wisdom that had been lost after their fall from grace. In modern times, the story of the giants has been embraced by some fringe theories and alternative interpretations of history. Some have argued that the giants were an ancient race of superhumans or extraterrestrials, theorizing that their existence was hidden by mainstream religious traditions. This has given rise to speculative accounts, ranging from pseudoscientific interpretations of ancient structures to the claim that remnants of the giants' bones have been discovered but concealed to protect the narrative of humanity's origins. However, within the more traditional theological and biblical frameworks, the giants remain a mysterious and powerful symbol, whose brief appearance in the scriptures serves to highlight deeper themes about the nature of sin, divine justice, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. The Nephilim and their legacy are a reminder that humanity's story is not just one of growth and progress, but also one of moral struggle and the ever-present threat of destruction. The flood, which wiped away the giants along with the rest of humanity, became the Great Reset, an act of divine intervention that sought to preserve what was pure and just, offering a new beginning for mankind. Ultimately, the true story of the giants in the Bible continues to elude complete understanding, not just due to the ambiguity of the texts but also because their meaning and role are deeply tied to the broader spiritual and moral questions that the Bible seeks to address. Are they simply a fantastical element of ancient mythology, or do they hold deeper truths about the spiritual dimensions of the world? Are they a literal race of beings, or do they serve as allegorical representations of human failings? As with much of Scripture, the giants in the Bible challenge readers to wrestle with the unknown, to confront the mysteries of faith, and to reflect on the ongoing struggle between divine righteousness and human disobedience. The Nephilim, though shrouded in mystery, remain an integral part of the biblical narrative, and their story continues to invite inquiry and interpretation, compelling us to think about the nature of power, corruption, and redemption in the unfolding story of humanity. As the story of the giants continues to captivate the imagination, the echoes of their existence remain within the broader biblical narrative, reverberating through both Old and New Testament teachings. In the New Testament, references to the Nephilim are few, yet some scholars suggest that the implications of the giants and their moral degradation resonate with later teachings about spiritual warfare and the battle between good and evil. For instance, the Apostle Paul speaks in his letters about the need for Christians to stand firm against the forces of darkness, which some interpret as alluding to the ancient spiritual battle that began with the rebellion of the fallen angels and continued through the wickedness of the giants. The Nephilim, as figures of tremendous physical strength and dominance, also serve as a symbol of the corrupting influence of power. Their story raises questions about the limits of human ambition and the ways in which divine intervention often disrupts human efforts to reach beyond their natural bounds. In this sense, the giants reflect a broader theme in the Bible, the tension between human pride and divine sovereignty. From the Tower of Babel, where humanity's attempt to build a tower to the heavens was thwarted by God, to the flood that wiped away the giants, the message is clear: humanity's prideful reach often leads to its downfall, and only through humility and submission to God's will can true fulfillment be found. In addition, the giants represent a profound warning about the perils of mixing the divine with the human. The idea of the sons of God marrying the daughters of men suggests a crossing of boundaries that was never intended, resulting in the birth of beings whose existence blurred the lines between the sacred and the profane. This mingling of the heavenly and earthly spheres, according to biblical interpretation, led to a corruption that could not be undone except by God's judgment. This act of separation, where the flood cleansed the earth and purged this unnatural union, can be seen as symbolic of the necessity for maintaining purity and distinction between the divine and human realms. Even outside the direct biblical narrative, the figure of the giant has remained a part of global cultural memory, often appearing in myths, legends, and folktales across the world. In ancient cultures, giants were sometimes viewed as the ancestors of civilizations, beings of great knowledge and power who either helped or hindered the course of humanity's development. These giants, while not always identical to the Nephilim in biblical tradition, often embody similar themes of strength, wisdom, and tragedy. The presence of these figures in the folklore of different peoples suggests that the image of the giant is a universal symbol, a representation of forces that are larger than life, often beyond human comprehension, and always tied to some form of divine reckoning. One enduring aspect of the giants' legacy is how their story has evolved in the collective imagination. In modern interpretations, giants often appear as fantastical creatures in literature and film, sometimes portrayed as benevolent, sometimes as monstrous. The giants in the Bible, however, are not just fantastical beings but rather act as reflections of the darker aspects of human nature. They remind us of the potential for corruption in the pursuit of power, knowledge, and self-glorification. They also serve as a reminder of the boundaries that humanity must respect in its relationship with the divine, a theme that echoes throughout Scripture. Ultimately, the story of the giants in the Bible does not just center around the enigmatic figures themselves but what they represent: the tension between human weakness and divine strength, the corruption that arises when humans overstep their limits, and the ultimate restoration that comes through God's intervention. Whether one views the giants as literal beings or as symbolic representations of spiritual decay, their presence in the biblical text serves as a powerful and timeless reminder of the fragility of human endeavor and the need for humility before God. In the end, the giants in the Bible are not simply ancient relics of myth, but figures whose stories challenge us to examine our own lives and the ways we interact with the divine. Whether through the Nephilim or the mighty Goliath, the giants stand as symbols of human potential gone awry, of the danger of pride and rebellion, and of the hope that redemption and restoration are always possible through God's grace. Their tale, though shrouded in mystery and ambiguity, is one that continues to resonate, urging all who encounter it to ponder the deeper questions of existence, morality, and divine purpose. And in their shadows, perhaps, we find a mirror that reflects not just an ancient past, but the very nature of the struggle between good and evil that continues in the world today. As the story of the giants in the Bible unfolds, it reaches a climactic conclusion with the flood, marking the end of an era where corruption, violence, and the mingling of the divine and the human had grown too great to be ignored. The flood, sent by God as a response to the overwhelming wickedness on earth, serves as the ultimate divine act of judgment and restoration. The giants, along with the rest of humanity, were swept away, their existence obliterated by the waters. Yet, Noah and his family, who were found righteous in God's eyes, were spared, and through them, humanity would begin again. The earth was cleansed, and the lingering effects of the giants, their corruption, and their influence, were washed away in a single, cataclysmic event. After the floodwaters receded, the world began to repopulate, and humanity's relationship with God entered a new phase. The giants, now gone, became part of the distant past, a story told to future generations as a warning and a reminder. The lessons of their existence, about the dangers of unchecked power, the consequences of mixing the sacred with the profane, and the need for humility, echoed through the teachings of the prophets and the law. In the centuries that followed, while the direct presence of giants was no longer felt, their legacy endured in the spiritual lessons of the Bible. The Israelites, as they journeyed into the Promised Land, encountered descendants of the giants in places like Canaan, but these encounters were no longer marked by the overwhelming physical power of the giants themselves. Instead, these lands became symbolic of the spiritual battles the Israelites faced as they sought to live in obedience to God. The giants were now reminders of past transgressions, of a time when mankind's pride had reached its apex and had brought divine judgment upon the earth. As the Bible story continues, the giants fade into the background, their role in salvation history completed. The lessons they embodied, pride, corruption, and judgment, continue to resonate in the hearts of believers. Their story, while part of a distant, ancient past, remains an ever-present cautionary tale for each generation, warning of the dangers of forgetting God's sovereignty and the consequences of attempting to elevate oneself beyond one's rightful place. And so, the giants of the Bible, once mighty and imposing, become a symbol of the fragility of human endeavor, the dangers of mixing the divine with the earthly, and the ultimate supremacy of God's will. Their story, woven into the fabric of Scripture, stands as a testament to the need for humanity to remain humble and obedient before the Creator, whose power and judgment are far beyond anything humans can comprehend. In the final analysis, the giants were not just beings of colossal stature, but symbols of everything that can go wrong when humanity abandons the path of righteousness. The flood may have ended their physical existence, but the lessons they imparted endure. Through them, the story of God's justice and mercy continues to unfold, urging all who read and reflect on their tale to consider the balance between divine authority and human will, and the eternal significance of choosing the path of righteousness over pride and corruption. Thus, the story of the giants ends not with their final defeat in the flood, but with the ongoing challenge it presents to each generation. The warning of the Nephilim, the caution against the rise of evil and the mingling of the divine with the human, remains a challenge that continues to echo through the ages, urging humanity to remember that while we may be great in our own eyes, we must never forget the sovereignty of the one who made us. We have gotten to the end of this video. Kindly like and subscribe to get more content like this or you won't see me again.